Undead Girl Murder Farce is the anime adaptation of the novel by the same name from author Aosaki Yugo, and it follows the story of Aya, an immortal 1400-year-old woman whose body was recently stolen, and now lives as a head inside of a cage, carried around by her maid Shizuku, as she works as a detective specializing in cases involving supernatural creatures, together with her servant and deuteragonist Tsugaru, as they travel the world solving crimes in hopes of finding the whereabouts of Aya's stolen body. Going into this show I had mild expectations. The trailer looked cool enough, and it does fall into the somewhat specific supernatural mystery anime subgenre, along with titles like Kyokusuiri and Dimensional W, which is a genre I'm rather fond of. The show starts off strong with an episode about Tsugaru, showing his life as a performer in an arena that pits him against other supernatural entities, showcasing how the show is set in an era after supernatural beings had been mostly hunted off, and now struggle to make a living in modern society. Tsugaru, being a half-oni, is no exception, although his life isn't so much of a struggle, as his oni genes make him one of the strongest supernatural beings there are, at the cost of sapping his life force and dooming him to die in a couple of years. But despite this conundrum, he lives somewhat carelessly, as an admitted second-rate performer, and it's here that we get the first glimpse of one of the show's greatest strengths, that being of its characters. As he is a somewhat jaded man who refuses to take anything, even death, seriously, as he joyfully recites his favorite rakugo at any given opportunity. His interactions with the sharp-tongued but unpretentious Aya are some of the best banter I've heard in anime in years, reminding me of the writing chops of Nishio Ising. And with the tight-laced maid Shizuku serving as a foil to Tsugaru's antics, it becomes a routine that never gets tiring to watch through its 13 episodes.
は思わなかったもので。なるほど、確かに見分けはつけにくいですね。何せ師匠は胸がないから。
津軽、何か言ったか？
いいえ、なんでもないです。すみません。
でも今のはなかなか面白いぞ。
え？
雫、後で津軽をぶん殴っておけ。はい、綾様。
And this is in no small part thanks to the extremely high quality vocal performances by Yashiro Taku and Kurosawa Tomoyo, interpreting Tsugaru and Aya respectively, who both sell their characters flawlessly. Yashiro works to give Tsugaru his signature levity and mischievousness, unfaltering even against the greatest of odds, and selling his rakugo performances perfectly.
触れたくもない。ああ、私の知り合いにもいましたよ。すごく綺麗好きで細かいたちでしてね。外を歩くたびに地面ばっかり見ては、やれ虫がどうの、ゴミがどうの、汚れがどうのと、そりゃもううるさすぎるもんですから、どうしたもんかと思っていたら、ある日その人。鳥の糞を落とされました。
While Kurosawa delivers a more naturalistic performance that she has become known for, giving Aya an air of intellectuality befitting someone who has been alive for more than 1,000 years, while still sounding, human. Especially as she plays along with Tsugaru's routines, or becomes panicked when things don't go the way she was expecting.
生首がどうして生きてるんだ？
答えは簡単です。私は死んでないから生きてる。
なんで首だけなんだ
？1年ほど前に首から下をなくしましてね。それ以来こうして鳥かご暮らしです。
It's no exaggeration to say that these two's performances carry the show. As with something as dialogue intensive as this, you really need some strong presentation to keep the audience captivated. Therein lies another strong aspect of the show. Just like the dialogue feels like something Nishio Ising would write, the directing strongly resembles something Monogatari-era Shaft would put out, which is no surprise, seeing as how director Hatekayama Mamoru is a Shaft veteran, having worked on classics like Madoka, Arakawa Under the Bridge, and Hidamari's Catch, and he brings a telltale Shaft-esque directing to the show, with weird camera angles, creative and surreal visuals that serve to accompany the lengthier dialogue sequences, and make them interesting and engaging to the viewer, which is especially important in a show like this where, again, dialogue makes up for about 90% of the total runtime. Unfortunately, despite having so much style, the same praises cannot be sung for the raw animation, as the show visibly suffers from a small budget, and fighting scenes, especially those in later episodes, become noticeably lacking in quality. If you want to see some extremely good animation and elaborate fights, this is most definitely not the show for you. Although I do commend the production team for using good directing and clever visuals to make up for the lack of raw animation quality, giving us some visuals that in my opinion more than make up for the shoddy animation. As for the story itself, I am pleased to inform that this show is not stupid. This might seem like a small bar to clear, but unfortunately when it comes to mystery anime, it can get very stupid very fast. Believe me, I have watched The Perfect Insider and Occult at 9, and if you get either of those references, I'm sorry. Right off the bat we get introduced to characters like Sherlock Holmes, Arsène Lupin, Aleister Crowley, and my alarm bells were ringing as we only needed someone like Jack the Ripper to show up to complete the pantheon of Japanese hack writing, where they add a bunch of western characters with cool sounding names to the story for seemingly no reason, and while Jack does eventually show up, it's not that bad, and they don't take up the spotlight. Fortunately, the show focuses more on small contained mysteries following popular and time-tested tropes, such as a whodunit mansion murder and an impossible closed room robbery. The resolutions for each case can be somewhat contrived, but not enough that it made me frustrated or made me rely on complete suspension of disbelief, and quite on the contrary, at times surprised me by how coherent they were in using established clues, making this a fun watch for mystery investigation fans. Undead Girl Murder Farce is a good show if you enjoy talking heads, literally or otherwise. If you're a fan of Shaft's directing and never got over them becoming a ghoulish version of themselves, or if you're a voice acting enthusiast who wants to hear some pretty standout performances. On the other hand, if you can't stand slow-paced shows, don't really want to watch people talking to each other for 20 minutes at a time, or are just looking for some cool action sequences, this show is most likely not for you. Overall, I think Undead Girl Murder Farce is good. So, what about you? Did you watch the show? Did you like it? Do you miss old Shaft as much as I do? Be sure to boost my channel analytics by posting in the comments below. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.